Hey, Pastor Cannon. Miss you, love you. This is going to be my report. I have chosen Proverbs. I've chosen Proverbs 31. Interesting about Proverbs 31. It is in Proverbs, so it has that instruction to men in wise wisdom and knowledge, and then it kind of entails Song of Solomon in there has some beauty in there and talks about love and talks about women's beauty and all this other things. So it kind of combines both of them. So I chose this, and yeah, let's go into it. Verse 1, the words of King Lemuel, the prophecy that his mother taught him. Research King Lemuel, not mentioned anywhere else in the Bible. His name actually means belong to God. He belongs to God. In Hebrew, that's his name. And they said, like I said, I looked online, and they said it could be even King Solomon, but I don't know why they wouldn't just say King Solomon here. Maybe you could help me with that. But it would make sense as we read on. So verse 2, well, in verse 1, we're seeing advice, getting motherly advice his mother taught him. And motherly advice and parental instruction and parental advice. We see different times in the Bible where leaders and different leaders of the Bible, have taken advice from their parents, either good or bad. With good instruction, we see Timothy in 2 Timothy 1:5. It says he was taught up and followed his ways of his mom and even his grandmother, which is awesome. And then in 1 Kings 9:4, Solomon, after his father David, we see kind of Solomon in 2 Kings, he kind of ignored his mom's advice, sort of as a bad instruction. And in 1 Kings 22:52, we see King Uzziah. He follows in his parents' footsteps about being, not very kind or loving, and receiving that bad instruction. So getting instruction from our parents is huge too as well. Maybe sometimes we don't have parents that we look up to, so maybe it's just a leader or someone that we could take advice from. So who you're taking advice from is important. Verse 2, what my son, what of my womb, and what of my son's vows? Give not thy strength unto woman, nor thy ways to that which destroyeth kings. Oh, wow. Verse 3, don't give into wantonness, and its recklessness, and lascivious. I had to look up that word and play it to because I kept saying it wrong. Lascivious, recklessness, and lascivious. That's like sexual lust, and so don't give in to that. That is what she's saying. Don't give strength unto women. That's we give strength unto women by giving into lasciviousness. Nor that ways which destroyed kings. It's destroyed kings many times that men have followed women. We see Bathsheba and different other examples. Verse 4, it is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, nor for the princes strong drink. Don't get drunk on strong drink. And why? Verse 5, lest they drink and forget the law, and pervert the judgment of any of the afflicted. So don't drink strong drink because you'll forget the law. You pervert your judgment. And the Bible says always keeping a sober mind, and especially when a leader is at a high level and he has to make these different decisions, these hopefully godly decisions, that you have to have a sober mind, you have to have thoughts on things above and keep straightforward to that. Verse 6 and 7, give strong drink unto him that is ready to perish, to die, and wine unto those that be heavy hearts. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. Verse 8 and 9, open thy mouth for the dumb, and the cause of all such are appointed to destruction. And verse 9, open thy mouth, judge righteously, and plead the cause of the poor and the needy. Love that. Speak for the unfortunate. Speak for the defenseless, the people who can't defend for themselves. Sometimes these kings and leaders, they get appointed because their mom and dad taught them and they had power and gave it to them. So speak for the people who don't have that privilege. Judge righteously, justice for the afflicted and the needy. An example here, we see that in Jesus. Jesus came to earth and he was that example to giving to the needy and helping the people who were less fortunate, who were kind of at the bottom. He came for the sinners and for the people who were neglected. So that's just a beautiful example of that. In verse 10, we kind of flip now. We're talking about a good wife, what to find in a good wife. And I'm single now and looking for a wife, and this kind of in your classes, and it's just Song of Solomon. It's just like a nice verse, boom, verse 10, love it. Who can find a virtuous woman? A virtuous woman, that's what we're all striving for as single men and women of God, virtuous leaders, virtuous people. A virtuous woman is a spiritual and capable, intelligent person. But key word is there, spiritual. She is spiritual. She has a spiritual connection with God. For her price is far above rubies. Beautiful. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She would do good in him, and his heart is in her heart too as well. Verse 12, she would do good in him. She would do him good and not evil all the days of her life. No evil's done. She loves him and cares for him and respects his decision and will do good for him. Verse 13, she seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. Wow, she's a hard worker here. She's seeking wool so she could wool, as we see later on, flax for some kind of cooking or maybe bread making, and worketh with her hands. She's a hard worker, and we can respect hard working women. Even house moms, how much hard work that is to maintain, to raise kids, to raise children, to give that good parental advice to your seeds. Verse 14, she is like the merchant ships. She bringeth forth her food from afar. Oh, I love it. She's a good cook. She's bringing out exotic food, and not just looking around the house. She's getting down dirty. She's verse 15. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maid. She riseth. I love that. Verse 15. She riseth also while it is yet night. She is rising up early before it is even day. She's an early riser, and the Bible talks about early risers and how that is good for you, and what it can do for you, and getting that early time with God. And then she feedeth everyone, even the maids. She said she gives portions to. She's kind and loving. Verse 16, she considered a field and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hands she planteth a vineyard. She's planting vineyards. She's growing things. Her hands. She's working hard with her hands. And she's sowing and showing her talents. 17, she girdeth her loins with strength, and strengtheneth her arms. 18, she perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She always has her candle lit. She always is shining bright to others, and it doesn't go out even by night. Wow. Verse 20. Verse 19. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. Now she's sewing. Now she's doing sewing. How many things does this woman do? It's beautiful. Now she's using her hands for another thing, and that just shows her hard work. Verse 20, she stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yet she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. Wow, she's giving. She has a woman ministry here. In woman ministry, I love that. She's always giving. She's thinking of the needy, like we were talking about before in verse 8 and 9 with the king of Lemuel. Now this woman's doing it, and we see that in Matthew 27, verse 55. I think of that, when Jesus, was died on the cross. He had a women ministry who was there, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, and that woman ministry given out to the poor it's so beautiful to see. I love young woman of God raised up, and it's just beautiful. And this is just all about that. I'm gonna skip down real quick. All that's beautiful. I'm gonna skip down to verse 24. 5, strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. Spiritual. She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is the law of kindness. Wow. Her wisdom is coming out of her mouth. She has wise words. She has kind words. Something kindness, say kindness, the law of kindness in her tongue. She's speaking always kind words, building up people, edifying people. Verse 27, she looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. And that just shows me she's partaking in, as she eats, she's not getting lazy. She's not staying idle. She's always working again. She's always thinking of other people under her household. Verse 28, her children arise and call her blessed. I love this part. And her husband also, and he praiseth her. Her children called her blessed. And, I think of my mom there, and, she had 3 boys, and just, she'd always just love for her boys to love on her and give her kind words and to praise her. And her husband also, he praiseth her, because they are hard working. They do so much hard work. And, women of God, these spiritual women, these virtuous women need to be edified and praised for their hard work. 29, many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. But thou excellest them all. Just edifying them, giving her kind words. The husband is, and that's our duty as husbands, or future husbands to me, hopefully, and God's willing. Verse 30, favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Wow. She fears the Lord. She's a devoted woman, and fearing God is so needed, and we need to fear God and not being familiar with Him. I've been thinking about the word being familiar. We must not be familiar with God. We must not be familiar with our wives or our spouse. We must not be familiar with the people even around us. Never have familiarity. Always have fear. Feareth the Lord, and she shall be praised. Verse 31, give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. And she's hardworking. Her hands, again, it talks about her hands numerous amounts of times, what she does with her hands. These, we think of women's hands, these delicate hands, these soft, beautiful hands that God gives them, and they're always working. They're using their hands not to be idle, but to give out kind words to people, to do it for their husband, to feed the household and the maids, and being a servant. And we see the fruit of her hands from all the work she's done, and that's just beautiful. That is my Proverbs 31. And I love you, Pastor. I got teary-eyed almost. Like, I'm taking after you. Your classes are starting to hit me. So, yeah, I love you. Hope all is well. And hopefully this is good. And yeah, what a great proverb. So thank you for this. Love you. Miss you. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Maybe at Costco or wherever we wear BJ's. All right, Pastor. God bless.